Year 8 and welcome to Lesson 6. This is our final lesson where we are exploring non-fiction texts. Please can you make sure that you have got everything you need before we start? So you're going to need to make sure you've got access to the lesson via Show My Homework and access to the PDF documents that are saved there too. You're going to need a pen or pencil, so grab yourself something to write with and make sure you have a notebook or some lined paper to write on. You want to leave enough time for the lesson, so please allow around 45 minutes, and also make sure your phones are away so that you are distraction free. Once you're ready, we'll begin. Let's start with our retrieval quiz then. We've got 5 questions today. I'd like to know, number 1, what type of dogs were once known as carriage dogs? Number 2, which word we learned means a scene of chaos and confusion? Bonus point if you can tell me a little bit about the etymology or history of that word. Number 3, in which country did many pet owners buy designer clothes for their dogs? Number 4, what is anaphora? And finally, number 5, which verb means to place side by side in order to show the difference between two things? Pause the video and complete numbers 1 to 5. Okay, so number 1, well done if you've got the answer here. The answer is Dalmatians. If you remember, we read that article, we learned about the close bond between the horses and the Dalmatians. Number 2, which word means a scene of chaos and confusion? We learned the word bedlam. We said Bedlam had a really dark and bleak history, coming from one of the first hospitals in London to treat mentally unwell patients. Number 3, in which country did many pet owners buy designer clothes for their dogs? If you remember, we read that opinion article from The Guardian that was about dogs in Japan. Number 4, anaphora. This is a rhetorical device which repeats a word or phrase at the start of successive clauses. And number 5, the verb that we use when we are placing things side by side in a text in order to show their differences is juxtapose. So we might say that the writer has juxtaposed the two images in order to show the difference or what has changed over time. So today's lesson, our final lesson, is one where we're writing a non-fiction text of our own. That means we're writing an opinion piece, an argument, where we are giving our views in response to a statement. The statement from yesterday's lesson was this: that people have become too attached to their pets, and animals are here to be useful, not to be spoilt. You've been asked to write a speech to be delivered in class that argues your opinion. So remember, if you're writing a speech, it is to be read out loud. So those rhetorical devices are going to be really useful. I want you to think carefully about what you've learned already in this unit about the 3 appeals of rhetoric, and refer to the knowledge organiser that is attached on Show My Homework as a guide. Finally, you might want to think about things we have learned throughout the last 6 lessons. We have read a range of different texts, which use all kinds of different techniques and some interesting vocabulary. You can see here on screen that I have listed some of the things that I've learned through this unit. I've taken some of the key words from the different texts that we've studied, and then I've just highlighted and picked out the ones I want to focus on in my argument today. You might like to pause the video here and decide, are there any particular techniques or words from the text we've read that you might like to use? If so, jot them down. Okay, so now we have been magpies and we have borrowed some lovely shiny bits and successful strategies from other writers. It's time to go back to our plan. Last lesson, you should have created a plan, just as I have done here, that writes down some key ideas for each of the 5 stages of your argument. If you remember those 5 stages, they followed that argument structure, where we're going to introduce our topic and ourselves, use logos and appeal to logic and reason, use pathos to build an emotional appeal, use a counter-argument to think about what someone else might say in response to the statement, and finally, finish on a really powerful ending. You can see my argument looks like this, and you're more than welcome to pause and read back through it if you would like to. Please find your notes from yesterday and make sure you have them as a plan to refer to throughout this lesson. Okay, so in my argument, I decided that I did really want to appreciate pets and show that they can be wonderful influences on our life. However, I wanted to also show that I think pets are a little bit too spoiled. I've used some facts to support that, including the amount of money spent in the UK each month just on pets alone. I'm going to use some emotive words, remember, to emphasise my view, arguing they're spoiled, pampered, overindulged. I am going to counter that, though, to say that animals can bring us happiness and companionship. But I want to undermine that argument by saying that animals could bring us those things even if we didn't spoil them. Okay, as creatures, they want simple things. They want to be well cared for, to be fed, and to have a warm and safe home. We don't need to spend lots of money on them in order to achieve that. Finally, my action that I would like the audience to take is to think carefully about how they spend their money, suggesting they don't need to spend all these human-like treats on their dogs or their pets, but instead they could donate that money to animal charities and rescue centres, making sure that all animals have got what they need. That's my argument. It may or may not be the same as yours. So make sure you've got a really clear plan before we start to write. So the rest of the lesson today is going to be you thinking about and drafting your argument. You can see here that I have created for you a writing frame. Now, this is really useful for thinking about the structure of your argument and some of the sentence stems that might be good at building in different techniques. However, you do not have to use this writing frame in full. You might like to steal a few ideas from it, but then to create some techniques and devices of your own. You might like to change the opening of your sentences and write a very different argument to mine. What I would like you to do, though, is think carefully about its structure. You want to have at least 5 paragraphs, even if some of those paragraphs are quite short. And you want to carefully think about how you are persuading your audience that your argument is right, that they must agree with you. So you want to pause the video here, and you're going to allow yourself about 30 minutes to be writing. This might involve writing, editing, thinking about your ideas, making sure you've got one really nicely crafted piece of text before you get ready to submit to your teacher. Okay, and once that's done, you have your exit ticket. So the final thing that I would like everybody please to do is before you submit that work is that you read your writing out loud. There's two main reasons for this. Number one, this is a speech, so it is intended to be read aloud to an audience. And number two, when you read your work aloud, that can help you to see if it makes sense or not. Quite often when I read my work back to myself or read it out loud, I might notice that I have missed an important piece of punctuation, or perhaps a word that I thought I had included, I hadn't. So it's an opportunity for me to check my spelling, my punctuation and my grammar, and listen to how it sounds when it's read out loud. Is there anything I might like to change? Once you are done, please send a copy of your work over to your English teacher. You can upload this to show my homework, or you could send it to them via email. Thank you for all the hard work that you have done from home over the last 6 lessons, Year 8. We are really excited to be welcoming you back to our classrooms from tomorrow, and we will see you all in English on Monday morning. Bye!